Hey guys, I've been receiving some comments requesting a video on how I go about my analysis. So I decided to create this video to address that. Some of you might relate to my style of trading while others may see things differently, and that's okay. Trading is personal, but we can always learn from each other. I decided to make a brief introduction of what this video is about first before we dive straight to the chart. Alright, so let's go to the chart. So I trade two pairs basically. GBP, JPY, and GBP USD. Let me switch to another fresh chart so you can analyze the charts together. Let me use this one. The pattern I trade is identifying the trend of the market first. So if it's an uptrend, I want to see a series of higher highs and higher lows, price breaking structures to the upside, something like this. Okay. Now this point now, breaking structures like this to the upside. This is a break of structure, and this here is another break of structure. This is the kind of movement I'm talking about, break of structure to the upside. Now let me show you how I trade. If price is in an uptrend, the first thing I want to see is a break of structure like this. That's the first thing. And I also want to see price retracing downward like this, trying to act as if it's going to push to the upside, but at this point trying to engineer liquidity. Okay, right. The first thing is this break of structure here. That's the first thing I look out for, a break of structure. Then the second thing I look out for is price trying to engineer liquidity like this here. That's the second thing I look out for. And the third thing is my point of interest will be the origin that caused this break of structure here, this origin here. Now, let me mark this point out. The origin that caused the break of structure like this is going to be my point of interest here. And I also want to see price leaving an imbalance, like a fair value gap, very close to the origin that caused the break of structure. Okay, if I should see this kind of formation, what I will do is to look for an opportunity here. I'll look for an opportunity here. Then my target will be this recent high here. Okay, because I want to see price pushing down, sweeping this liquidity here, tapping into this origin that caused the break of structure. All right, then pushing to the upside to create another break of structure here. Do you understand? So this is the kind of formation, or this is the kind of setup I trade basically. Now let me go to the chart to show you this. Let me take this off. Right, so you can see here at this point there is a break of structure here. All right, we have a break of structure here, and the next thing I want to see is the origin that caused the break of structure. This demand zone here is going to be my point of interest. Right, so I'll map this last candle to the downside out. You can see here this break of structure, this particular movement here started from this point here. So this was the last candle to the downside before this movement that caused the break of structure. Right, so here this last candle here is going to be my point of interest. That's the second thing. Let me map this point out as my point of interest. Then the next thing I want to see, okay, then the next thing I want to see price trying to engineer liquidity, acting as if it wants to push to the upside. Right, engineering liquidity somewhere here. Now let's see. So there is we have liquidity here. I'll be waiting for price to push all the way down to tap into this origin that causes break of structure, tap into this demand zone here. So if I want to pick an entry, this is going to be my point of interest where I'll pick an entry from. And this high here, this recent high here, will be my TP zone, or TP level, or rather she gets. So you can see this movement here is the same thing I just illustrated here. So after this break of structure here, let's say we've already gotten this. Let me take this off. And if we should, from this angle here, we saw an imbalance here. This is a fair value gap here. You can also take it to 15 minutes, right? So I'm just trying to illustrate it here on H1, right? So you can also identify something like this on M15. Okay, now the next thing, let's say I was able to catch this movement here. So the next thing I will do is, let me take this off. I'll try to identify another point that I'll be waiting to see price come to. The next thing is, you can see here we have a break of structure here. If I want to pick another entry, I will just try and identify the break of structure, which is this point here. And the next thing is the origin or the demand zone that caused this break of structure. This is going to be my point of interest. So let's map this point out. This last candle to the downside is what I'll map out, and you can see we also have an imbalance very close to this zone here. All right, so I'll wait for price here. I want to see price coming into this zone before the next push to the upside, but you can see price did not come all the way down here. All right, and I did not see an entry here. Right, now let's identify another one. The next thing is what I'll look for, the next break of structure, which is this zone here. So let me bring this thing up here. So this is going to be my next point of interest. We've identified a break of structure here, right? The next thing I want to see is, where is the origin? I want to look out for the origin that caused the break of structure, which is this point here. I'll identify this point as my point of interest here. So this other block here will be my point of interest, and also want to see price trying to engineer liquidity here before tapping into this zone. And let's go to M15. So you see that we also have an imbalance here. You may not see an imbalance on H1, but you'll see it on M15, right? Now let's go to M15. So I'll show you. Okay, so here is the zone, and if I come to M15, I'll try to adjust my zone. I'll try to adjust this to fit into the last candle that caused the break of structure here. You've seen here, right? So this is the last candle, and if you should look closely, you also see that we have a fair value gap very close to this point here. So this is going to be my point of interest. The next thing I'll look out for is liquidity. You can see here price created liquidity around this zone, around here. You can see price created liquidity, then pushes down to this origin that caused the break of structure before this massive push to the upside. So this point now is where I would like to wait for price. I would like to wait to pick an entry, this zone here. So my target will be this high. This point here will be where I will target, right? Okay, now let's take this off and look for another one. So now we've gotten another break of structure here. Let me bring this one here. So this point now becomes a new break of structure. The next thing I will look out for is the origin that caused the break of structure. Is this one here, right? This point here is my point of interest. This point here is my point of interest here. So price engineered liquidity here, obviously. This point here, price engineered liquidity here, came all the way down to this zone here. Came all the way down to this zone. Let me bring this stuff down, trying to lap the last candle to the downside here, right? So now price came into this zone here, tapped into this zone. If my stop loss was very tight, let's say I picked an entry here, price would have stopped me out before this push to the upside, right? So that's why sometimes you just have to give your stop loss a room to breathe, right? Now This point, you can see here, price engineered liquidity at this zone, came all the way, tapped into this zone here before the next push to the upside, right? I'll pick an entry here, right? Pick an entry here. Then I'll target this guy here, the recent high, which is this point here. You can see price pushes all the way up to that zone, even took out this zone here. Now, this stuff is looking confusing because we are looking at this on 15 minutes time frame, right? I like pointing out what I really want to see on H1. Let's go to H1. So M15, we're seeing a lot of noise and all of that, but now you can see this one clearly, right? So this point now will be my next point of interest. Let me take this out. So after this movement, the next thing I want to see is, where is my recent break of structure? Obviously is this one here. I'll identify this point as my break of structure. This is a break of structure we have here. Let me take this one off. Now, after identifying here, I will want to look out for the origin that caused the break of structure, and obviously is this one here. And price also left an imbalance here, a fair value gap here, close to this origin that caused the break of structure. So what I will do is I will map this point out as my point of interest. Okay, as my point of interest, this other block here. Okay, so the next thing I want to see is, I want to see price dropping all the way down to this zone, and I also want to see a liquidity grab. Okay, now if you should look at this point here, you also see that there is also a bearish candle here before this massive push to the upside. I will also consider this point as my point of interest here, right? If you've watched my last video that I said I didn't want to confuse you guys with what I was drawing, this was actually what I did, pointing out this zone and also pointing out this zone. Wanted to see price coming into either this zone or this zone so I could pick an entry, right? Now this becomes my another point I was looking out for price to come to. Let me just use points of interest. So you can see here, price engineered liquidity around here, was acting as if it was going to push up. Now dropped all the way down, tapped into this origin here that caused this particular move to the upside, right? Tapped into this zone here before the next push to the upside. You can see here, right? Before this push to the upside. So if I missed this entry because while I was trying to edit videos for you guys, I actually missed this entry. So I map out this zone. I wanted to see if price was going to react to this zone or it was going to come all the way down here before the next push. So since I was not even looking at the charts, I missed this entry, but it's fine. So you can see here, and my target would have been this recent high here. All right, so price came all the way down, engineered liquidity here, tapped into this zone here before the next push to the upside, right? Okay, so this is it. Let me take it off now. All right, so now we've gotten another break of structure here. We've gotten another break of structure here, and what I will do here is I will also identify the origin that caused this break of structure, which is this point here. Let me take this off. I'll identify this zone here as my point of interest. Okay, I want to see price engineering liquidity, like what price is doing here now. Engineering liquidity, piling up liquidity rather, I don't know, piling up liquidity here. So I want to see price dropped all the way down to tap into this zone. Then I'll look for an entry here to target this point here. So that's basically how I trade. That's how I look for entries. All right, so since this video was a requested video, I decided to create a video around how I pick my trades and what I want to see in the market before picking an entry and all of that. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys in my next video. Bye.